Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Aaron. So I'm here to review another Drag Race episode. I'm quite happy. I did the makeover one, it was really short. My review was only half an hour, which I think was my shortest one yet. And this is going to be another short one, because I just have less to say as the episodes go on. Like, there's not as many queens to talk about. They've kind of played all their narratives, so I'm going to be honest with you now, like, very little of work happens at all in the workroom. So, and the challenge took so long, this episode, and this season, I'm just going to accept, hasn't got any good, literally it had one good Untucked episode, so Untucked doesn't take any time to talk about. But that's what we're going to change when All Stars turns up, and I'm also doing a video about Celebrity Drag Race. So Drag Race has just taken over my life. Great. So it's episode 11 of 13/14. If you look up sources, some say we're getting 14 episodes like we usually would, and some say we're only getting 13. Who knows? So they all come back in after Heidi's elimination. No, they don't. Heidi hasn't been eliminated yet. This is a spoiler review, so you know what's happening. Yeah, she hasn't been eliminated yet, but I'm very confused because whenever there's a double Shantae, I'm like, they come back after so and so goes home, and I'm just like, wait, no one went home the last time. So they all come back. Gigi basically is like, I'm happy for you two, but I'm also like, great, we're still at the top 6, which I understand. She said it in a very nice way considering previous seasons and examples of it, because like, no one's gonna be happy that when they thought someone of their competition was going to get knocked out, therefore they are closer to the crown, it's then like, you both stay, especially as it's so... This is one of the latest double Shantaes in any season I can think of, top 6. And at that point, it's like, why would you do this? Why? Because we're so close to the crown, and now I have to deal with another week. I mean, if I went on Drag Race, I have this shit memorised. I'd know, I'd be like, this has already filled out 11 episodes or 10 episodes or whatever. We need a double Shantae. But obviously, apparently people aren't as neurotic as I am. So, there was like a fun conversation though. And then Jada was like, when you wave your friend off at the airport, you don't love them any less. That was funny. Then roll titles. Then they all come back in. Then it's the mini challenge. The puppets are back after, I think, 2 seasons leave. Yeah, I don't think they did it in season 10. They might have. I might have forgotten. But they definitely didn't do it in season 11, which was really sad. They might have done it in season 10, I forgot. But then season 10 was very forgettable, so... But yeah, they brought it back. On another note, apparently we might just not be getting a reading challenge. This episode comes out the day that the next one airs. So... obviously, in the future, you guys will know. I guess they could have it be the top 5 do a reading challenge, but I don't think so. And it's so bizarre that you'd get rid of probably the most iconic mini challenge, which means I guess that FabFitFun sponsor was meant to replace the reading challenge, like people said, and I was just like, no, can't be. They wouldn't do that. So yeah, rest in peace, reading challenge. Hope we see you again in All Stars. We probably will. Yeah, but then the puppet one, as much as happy as I was to like see the puppet challenge back, it was pretty shit. It's one of the worst puppet challenges. This season is still pretty decent overall, but this puppet mini challenge was not it. It wasn't. Jackie won. I mean, honestly, I would have given it her or Crystal probably, but neither of them were particularly funny. And then Gigi completely flopped. I don't know what's happened to Gigi. It's like someone's absorbing the talent out of her. Because she was dominating the first half of the season, and now she's floundering. And it's not even like she's plummeted to the bottom, like her nerves have gotten to the best of her. She's just now been on this monotone kind of low/safe kind of run. Like it's up here, an episode she goes down, and then she's just sort of staying in the middle. So I don't know what's going on with Gigi. But yeah, the mini challenge happened. It's a bit disappointing, a bit of a waste of time. We find out the challenge, which is they do have to do one woman shows, which means for the first time ever in a regular season, there was only one sewing challenge, which I mean, I'm not mad about. I mean, I like the sewing challenges, but I also think having like 3 is a bit too much, because it's like now you're completely basing a third of the season off of whether a queen can sew. But, you know, I kind of liked having the formula of how they had one regular sewing challenge and a ball. I guess maybe they might bring it back next season. They kind of played with the format a bit in season 11 as well. So I think they're just trying to spruce things up every season so you don't get bored. I did like the double premiere. I still liked that they did those big challenges at the beginning, even if it does sacrifice a sewing challenge. Anyway, to this week's challenge, the one-woman show. It's a great challenge for this far at the end because it's very much just, you have to fill a 5-minute space. You can do that however you choose. It can be comedy, it can be... Well, it's got to be funny, but it could technically be stand-up comedy if you wanted, if that's what you're good at. It could be a story, it could be a skit, it could be whatever. Basically, half the girls in this episode go for skits, and the other half go for telling a personal story. And only one of the story ones is successful, so I feel like skit was probably the way to go, because actually, all 3 of the skits were reasonably successful, so... Yeah, I guess that was it. I mean, it was funny because reason Whoopi was there is it seems that her and one-woman shows are quite a lot about storytelling. So it's rather funny that only one person doing that form actually succeeded in it. But yeah, they find out it's going to be Whoopi as the guest judge. Love it. First black woman to get EGOT, so we stand. And we also just like Whoopi. I mean, she has done bad... Well, she did that one thing. Was she like... Was it... What was her name? Bella, was it Bella Thorne? And it was like she had her nudes leaked, and where people was like, well, you shouldn't have sent them then. If you're going to send them, you should expect this to happen. That was out of order, in my opinion, but that's the only thing I've ever really seen her do that I disagree with. And then beyond that, she seems quite nice. And she's quite a big guest judge, and obviously they were all like, oh my god, wow. They all work on their sketches a bit, their one-woman shows. They go to the main stage to rehearse and sort of work on their material in front of Ru and Whoopi, and no one does well in this like practice. No one. If we go through them, we have Crystal. I mean, Crystal probably does the best because Crystal explains the concept, but is then very much like, I have the concept, but I don't really have anything to show you. But then Ru sort of brings it out in him with, what would Elder Barge do? They didn't actually play their music this week. The Elder Barge thing's getting a bit boring, but when he was like, do the jerk, that was hilarious. I'm glad he used it in the final performance. Yeah, Crystal's wasn't the best, and I do think Ru genuinely adores Crystal. Then we had Gigi, who came in and was trying to read off a script, and then she tried to do it off the script, it just wasn't working. And then we got a confessional from her, and she was like really upset. So she starts really crying, and it's because she's upset because she didn't really understand the assignment. And so when she then gets told you can't have the script, she starts freaking out in the confessional. Like, I didn't know this is what the challenge was going to be. I'm panicked, I'm worried, and whatever. And it seems that Gigi is very reliant on a script, because she did do well in the improv challenge, but you need to remember that in that improv challenge, she spent most of it dead. So she didn't have to improv for very long at all. So it does seem that improvisation isn't her thing. That's not what she likes. She likes having a script that she can work off of. And yeah, that really throws her. And then we get a bit later how she's like, she fools herself into thinking that the insecurity isn't there, which seems to be what has gotten to her. I think what's happened is from the Droop challenge onwards, like, she didn't do well in that, and then it's almost like, I think that explains why we saw such a sharp decline. Is I think now, after she didn't do well in that challenge, because she didn't do awful, okay, I thought there were redeeming features in it, but I at least felt like it was the Gigi we'd seen at the beginning of the season. But since then, she seems to be almost like different. And I think it's because she's been trying to spend so much of her effort mentally suppressing her her insecurities, that they're not there. She's like, I can't admit to myself that I have these. I can't admit to myself that I'm worried or scared. But that's just making her fail in the challenges, I think, because she's putting so much energy into keeping her insecurities hidden. So I think that's kind of an explanation. And I was worried for her this challenge, because I was like, she didn't, we'll get to it later. I think she did okay, but like, you can still see it really threw her off. So I'm hoping in the next challenge she can pull herself together. There probably won't be a winner in the next challenge, because there wasn't in season 11. We have Heidi and hers. She's basically like trying to do the characters, and she gets a lot of notes on her drunk uncle character, and that happens. And then Jackie comes in with this whole stand-up, basically, and Whoopi's like, But she basically says, you're not funny, so don't try and be funny, as in, I think what she means is you're not good at stand-up comedy, that this isn't your thing, I can tell, so don't try and do stand-up comedy. And then Jackie's thrown, because she's like, so that's my entire idea gone, okay, I have to restart. And then Jada comes in, is talking too fast, and needs to relax, and then has a emotional moment with Whoopi about how she looks up to Whoopi, and then they hug, and that's lovely. They come back into the workroom the next day. They talk about how hard it's going to be to judge this episode because they're all doing such different things. And yeah, I even watched this today. I rewatched it with my mum today because I was literally thinking, like, I can't remember anything that happened in this episode. I'm going to have to rewatch it. And coincidentally, my mum was watching it, so I watched it again with her. And that was only a few hours ago. I still cannot tell you anything else that happened in the workroom, so I just think that the editors were like, we have nothing. We have blown our load early, like, we have no storyline to give you. So I guess moving straight to the runway. Ru was in theme for the runway, shock horror. Michelle wasn't, which was a bit bizarre. Mum pointed that out, that she's usually in theme, but she wasn't. She was dressed as Rose, though, from Golden Girls, which was kind of funny, because there was a moment about Rose, and Jada didn't know who Rose was, because I also can't remember what Rose's last name is from the Golden Girls, but they, like, say her full name, and Jada's like, who's that? And they're like, from the Golden Girls, and she's like, oh, which is true. I didn't realise Rose's last name was just... I'm sorry, I'm not a Golden Girls stan. I've only seen it sometimes, although when I have seen it, it is very funny, admittedly. And in England, they're playing it on Channel 5 at like midday, I think. So if you're a UK person, check that out. So yeah, back to the runway. I forgot about that. Michelle's here, Ross is here. I'm still being thrown off by them not just alternating Ross and Carson, and now it's just kind of a free-for-all when they're on. And then Whoopi's there. And also, Ru doesn't introduce Michelle and Ross, which is weird. She has a bit with Whoopi and then just introduces the challenge in the runway, and it's like, okay, I guess that's happening. I mean, I don't mind it, to be fair. I think introducing Ross and Michelle every episode, or Carson and Michelle or whatever, is just a bit tedious, so I don't really mind that. So we get into the one-woman shows. So I think Jackie was first, and I quite enjoyed this. I thought the setup was cute. I can't remember any of their names of the one-woman shows. But she had a pair of glasses on a stool, or two pairs of glasses, one on each stool. She stands in between. She's got like a nice outfit. It's quite classic Jackie. I don't really like the curls she does. I really don't like them. I don't like, because they're so big and heavy. They just look like sideburns. So I think she should maybe give those a rest. I don't know if they're the thing. Maybe she should start drawing them. I know that's not the same, but Roxy did that in season 5, and I know Nina has done that. It just looks better. It looks more cartoony, and I think that actually that looks better with that hairstyle of the little curlettes, ringlets. I don't know. So yeah, again, she does hers. I quite enjoyed hers. Hers was the only one that was really properly like deep and personal and emotional. So she had funny moments. I think her best joke was when her mum, she did doing her mum's accent, was like, go and study that, read your book on male anatomy, and she was like, don't have to tell me twice. That was really funny, because it was, I knew what the story was, I knew where it was going, I knew that the feather boa joke, I need to hide it better, I knew that was coming, all that stuff, but that joke was genuinely really, really clever, and I really enjoyed it, and I think she was very brave to be so vulnerable, and she was the only one who got, like, claps of, like, emotional claps, when she was like, they were drag queens, and I was like, oh my god, that's so sweet, and I was like, I guess maybe that was the secret, because everyone else was just going real hard with the comedy. Then we have Crystal, who was phenomenal Phil. Now, this was absurd, but that's Crystal. Crystal is absurd. I saw someone make a good point. I think Ms. Cracker was the one who made it on the pit